right, we're just about here at 6 o'clock. Got Banwell is on here, which is great. I'm looking around just to make sure that everybody who I'm going to be kind of calling on is on here. And I guess you all are. So if we want to go ahead and call the meeting to order, we'll do that. I am going to be running the meeting this evening because Shannon is out of town. So this meeting is beginning here at 6 o'clock. I just want to do one quick thing and check if Danae is on here, and she is. Okay, perfect. So with the approval of minutes, we have the May 13th minutes. Would anybody like to approve those minutes? Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. Is there any discussion? Doesn't look like it, so that's a good thing. So those will go on as approved. First up, we're going to have a facility project committee update. So just to remind people, this is the committee that is made up of the Amherst School Board, JFAC, also our business administrator and our director of facilities, as well as our superintendent. We've been meeting every couple of weeks here, and we've been meeting with Banwell as well. So that group has some updates. Amy, do you want to start off and talk about Makerspace a little bit?
Absolutely. So, so we've been talking to the Amherst Rec and talking to building leadership, Bethany at the middle school. And so, you know, in light of the potential renovation at the middle school, we met to discuss the future of the Amherst Makerspace. And as part of the process to determine the renovation scope at the middle school, there is now an opportunity to redesign the Makerspace in a way that best meets the needs of our student population. But we do recognize that you know, it's really important to utilize the building space that best aligns with our curriculum. However, the partnership with the Amherst Makerspace community is very important. And we talked about potentially housing the larger pieces of equipment at different locations, but also want to maintain community access to the redesigned space at the school. And just want to emphasize, you know, we are committed to working together to look at various solutions and provide the community with a makerspace through a continued partnership. So we just want to make sure that we have this information out there for the public to understand that this is a consideration and that we are, you know, very committed to working with those folks. However, we do need to keep in mind our student population when we're making changes. So Bethany, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, I just think at this point it's all really planning phases, but you know, as Amy said, really making sure that as we look at redesigning the space, that it's first and foremost meeting the needs of the curriculum and our students and the growing student body, but also recognizing how important partnership is. And so while the space may look differently, it may offer even greater opportunities for collaboration and looking at maybe perhaps even multiple spaces across the district or across Amherst as a whole to really build those community partnerships and still at the same time make sure that we're utilizing all the space available to meet student needs too.
Thank you, guys. I think one thing that I'm not sure if you said it early on, Amy, but when you guys have had that meeting, you've also been in touch with the Makerspace board. So they're well aware of all this and they're involved in the conversation here from the get-go. So as soon as this really came up as an opportunity to use the space differently, we all have collaborated and kind of come together.
Absolutely. And we even sent out a joint communication from Craig Fraley and myself today to all of the makers to make sure that they're not getting caught by surprise, but that they're aware that we're thinking of them and part of the process and really committed to collaboration going forward. Great.
Roger, you want to talk about the construction manager RFP?
Certainly. So on May 27th, we issued an RFP for construction managers. And just a reminder, the construction managers firms are going to provide conceptual estimates from the conceptual designs that Banwell provides for us. And then once we determine which conceptual we want to go with, we're going to fine tune those. They're actually going to give us just more detailed estimates to develop a GMP so that we can take the bond in March 2022. So we currently just had a walkthrough on June 7th, and we had 3 vendors show up through the walkthrough. The vendors with representations were DEW Construction. Having a brain fart now too, isn't that funny? It was DEW, Ekman Construction, and Harvey Construction. We did a good walkthrough of AMS, and we also had a good tour of, we walked the Wilkins site, but we ended up just walking right through the building and heading back to the back playing field where we have the proposed site there. So our estimates are coming back actually next week on June 14th. Then we plan on reviewing them on the 15th and selecting a couple firms for interviews. Those interviews will take place on June 22nd. For anyone that is reviewing the RFP, that is a change. We had planned the interviews on June 17th, but we wanted more representation on our end, so we did change that to the 22nd of June. And then from that point, the interview committee will make a recommendation to the JFAC committee to review our options, and the JFAC committee will then make a recommendation to the Amherst School Board.
Perfect. Are there any questions? I know this is, well, I guess we have 3 JFAC members here. Are there any questions prior to going into the construction management interviews that you want us to keep in mind or anything like that? We'll be doing it the same way that we did the architect interviews. So we'll do it from the from that project team standpoint, and and bring them to JFAC for additional questions and information. But
I had a quick question. This is Steve Barabee. Do you have the documents to review as far as what went out, and what will we get the like packages from each vendor as far as like resumes and that kind of stuff?
Yep, we'll share all of that with the JFAC committee, certainly, Steve. And then everything that went out is, I can certainly send it to you with an email, but it's also posted on our SAU website with our RFPs. All the information is right there that I sent out, but I'll also send it to you, Steve, as well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
all right, is there anything else from that facility project team that we want to touch base on? I don't think so. We'll go through. We can always come back if there's anything. I would love to pass it over to Banwell Architects, who have been hard at work, talking to all of the people in our buildings, and especially our administrators, and Dr. Bernasconi and Mrs. Peril are here tonight. Hopefully, as Banwell talks, you guys can, chime in if you have anything to really help show the community the process that we're going through to make sure that we all understand how important it is. Ingrid, we can't hear you. You're on mute, if that helps.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear? Okay, perfect. Star 6. So my name is Ingrid Nichols. I'm the president of Banwell Architects, and this is Jeremiah Goulet. And Brad Prescott has also been helping us with the middle school part of things. And as most of you know, we have been very busy, as you said, Victoria. We've reviewed your existing conditions, have done lots of walkthroughs of the buildings with Roger, and we reviewed the previous plans and the great work that the committees have done to date. We've been meeting with the facilities project team every other week to review kind of our progress as we go through this process. We also have met multiple times, probably at least 6 to 8 times, with the middle school and elementary school principals to really grill them and make sure that we are developing the program for the needs and wants, and it's a tug and a push and a pull to really make sure that we're getting the best space, but not too much excess space. So we are also trying to identify wishes and wants, but really focusing down on the needs of what the schools need. So we can just kind of share with you the current status of our, what we call a program of spaces. So we're going to just share our screen just to kind of show you, and we will be sending this once it's finalized, so it will be a public document, but it is still a draft. Can you see our screen?
We can. If you can make it, yep, as big as you can, that'd be perfect. There you go.
Okay. So this is a program, again, that we've been reviewing directly with the principals. And then we bring it to the facilities project team as well. And now we're bringing it to this group. And what we're trying to do is really make sure that what we start with a program of spaces and all of the square footages and requirements and needs, one, meets the code and meets the State Department of Education, but two, going from your existing square footage to this new square footage, which we're going to use to build these new concept plans, is accurate and truly reflects the needs. So we have lots of columns, lots of comments on the right-hand side. In the upper right corner, we have existing enrollments, core design, and design capacity for our targets. And then if you go to the bottom, we have the totals at the very end. And so again, this is a work in progress. And if you go to the summary sheet, from the previous plan that was developed by the previous architect to where we are today with the middle school, one more down. This is the middle school. So you have about 109,000 square feet. The program net square feet, not including circulation, it was about 86,000 square feet. After working this past month with Bethany, we've got it down to about 80,000 square feet. So when you multiply and go to the gross square footage, so that's the perimeter of the building that includes all the hallways, stairs, elevator, et cetera, that's what that number is. So we've really done a really good job at reducing the proposed square footage by about 8,500 square feet. So that's big picture where we are with the middle school program. The elementary, we'll just do quickly the summary here. So existing square feet, we have to take the two different schools. Clark is just under 23,000. Wilkins is just over 50,000. So we're about 73.5. Again, we did the program net from the previous plan was about 113,000. Our program is about 105,000. So when you gross that out, we're saving over 11,000 square feet. So the point is we're not going up in square footage, we're going down, but not too far down. You want to just
It seems
show
like
me
a good
elementary?
reduction.
Yeah. And obviously with a reduction in square footage will be a reduction in cost.
Sure.
So another thing, this is the elementary school program that we like to do, is to really analyze one, what your school board maximum kids per class are to make sure we're not putting too many kids in there. Then we also look at existing square feet of what you have, and then what's proposed for new, and what that changes to see in that column where we're adding square footage. Or subtracting, you know, sometimes we subtract and sometimes we add, but mostly are adding from your existing. So I feel we've done a really good job. It was a give and take, and we're at a really good place. So these documents, what these allow us to do now is to go in and start reviewing the plan options that we have to meet this target of about 150,000 square feet. So the other piece that we should update you on, in addition to meeting with the principals, we have had, Brad was down basically for an entire week, meeting with all the different departments in the middle school, different department heads, the kitchen staff, the technology staff, and Jeremiah and I this past week before have been meeting with the elementary school department heads. And I cannot stress enough how excited they were, one, that they had been asked to be a part of the process, and two, they were just, even if they don't get everything, they're at least getting their wishes and their needs on how they can do their jobs better out on the table so that we can, as a group, talk about what we can and can't do. So that's been really good. the next step is we're going to finalize these programs, and then we're going to really start getting in. And we've done a few preliminary drafts of the plans on the site to get kind of our bearings on the site. And our next step, which is kind of the most exciting step, is to look at what the plans can be. So for the elementary school, we're looking at a new school. Obviously, we also, after visiting this past week, are going to look at possibly salvaging the multi-purpose room as an option for consideration. It is a beautiful space that needs some beautifying, but it has a stage. It has great structure. It's sprinkled. You've recently added some storage onto it. And I think if we can salvage that one piece and work it into the plan, assuming it doesn't, it's not in the way of making our plan the best it can be, I think it makes sense to look at doing that. So that's exciting. And the other thing that we're looking at is phasing of this, because we need to know, we need to keep the existing school running, build half the school, move Wilkins into the new first phase, demo the existing school, build the second half, and then move the 5th grade and the Clark kids over at the very end. So we've learned you really, if you can, minimize the construction time and duration and maximize the amount that you're building to minimize the construction costs. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, I heard you say,
the-
sorry, can I just say one thing? I heard you say minimize cost. So you're aware, and that's what you're trying to do, and get all of those things to cross each other where it fits best.
Right.
Perfect.
And it's you don't want to cut your arm off to save something, but if it makes sense to do, these are the decisions we're going to be bringing to this group, into the community, so that they can make those informed decisions on what things cost, and you can make that decision on what you want to do. And what, we don't want to make it so cheap that it's not right for your education for the next 25 to 40 years.
Of course.
So just some of the kind of big picture goals that we're thinking about when we're doing these plans. Phasing is obviously one. The middle school, as most people know, it's going to be a 6th through 8th. The 5th grade would move back down into the elementary school. We're also looking at, when we first visited the site, the parent drop-off is ridiculous, basically. So if there's a way we can do a new secure entry, fix the parent drop-off so that the site is safer and better for parents, we're looking at options for that and what those cost. We're creating rectangular classrooms for people that have not been in the middle school. They have these pie-shaped classrooms that are extremely funky and inefficient. And we're providing spaces to support the full middle school curriculum. Right now, a lot of the spaces are severely undersized for what you're doing, like the music area, lack of health classroom, a lot of specialty, special ed spaces need more space, but those are what we're looking at. And then the last thing is updating all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. They're at basically the end of their lives. Obviously, if pieces of equipment have been replaced recently, we'd be salvaging those, but the electrical system needs to be redone, and mechanical systems and air systems and the windows all need to be redone. So those are the big goals for the middle school. The elementary school is going to combine the 2 elementary schools. So it would be pre-K through 5th grade. As I said, most likely, based on the site and what we've looked at before, it's going to be a brand new school, and maybe we'll be able to salvage a piece of the existing school. Again, we're going to create a separate bus and parent drop-off and a separate drop-off for preschool, since the little kids are there. We also need to be conscientious of the siting of the building and how, how many stories, and it's in a very beautiful part of town. So we need to be, it's in a neighborhood with residential, plus the wetlands and the beautiful stream that's there. So there's a lot of pieces that we have to kind of coordinate. And I think that's about it.
That was a great recap. Before we kind of open for questions, Anna or Bethany, would you guys like to chime in on anything that, anything you're excited about that we can bring with the new build or with the program change or anything like that?
So you first say, what are you excited about? I mean, everything that they're talking about is extremely exciting. So I just want to echo what Ingrid said, just everybody's opportunity to be able to meet with everybody, Jeremiah, Ingrid, and to be able to give their input and for them to be able to take that in and really design something that will best meet our needs. I know that everybody is very appreciative of that, and yes, we're very excited about it and what those opportunities are. So I would say first and foremost, it's just the input and the time that they've put in to really listen to the needs and the wants of the staff. So thank you.
I absolutely, Anna, I was going to say the exact same thing. And I think that the committee here and the community will be really pleased because of that iterative process and the amount of time bandwidth has taken with us as administrators too. We've really, really refined the vision, really streamlined the program to make sure that that we're designing and asking for something that's really going to meet student needs going into the next, several decades. But that it's really efficient and that it's the right use of space and the right use of technologies and all of those pieces. So it's been a really thorough process, and I'm excited to see kind of the next step come into fruition.
Great, thank you guys. Let's see if anybody has any other questions. Jeannie, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi everybody. Hold on just a second. My phone just decided to ring. Okay. Apologies for that. I had a couple questions. One, you all mentioned something about the number of stories to the building. I was concerned. I think some of us were concerned about the 3-story initial conceptual design, and I wondered if you're going to, there's thoughts of altering that at all.
Yeah, so our original preliminary kind of options, what we're trying to do is fit it in 2 stories. If we can't, we're trying to minimize a 3rd story. So we'll have options to show you both, a 2-story option and a 3-story option.
Okay. I had a couple other questions. It's okay if I keep going?
Yep, keep going.
I need a better understanding of how you were able to cut such a significant amount of square footage. It always makes me a little nervous, having participated in spatial plans for schools in the past. I just always get a little worried that we are cutting too deep, and I just want to feel a little more confident that the trade-off is not going to be too painful.
So knew this question was going to come, and that's why we've developed this. So basically it's about 11,000 square feet in the elementary school piece. The middle school piece, we are trying to obviously keep, even though we're getting a grade out, we're trying to keep everything in the same square footage of your existing. We may have a small addition for the administration, and that's what we need to figure out next. But the biggest piece, I guess, that we've reduced the classrooms from 9 classrooms per grade to 8. And we've cut out, there were 2 gymnasiums before. We've cut out the gymnasium, one of the gymnasiums. And the last thing, reduce the size of music a bit. And there were some kind of centralized areas that weren't really being used, that were kind of excess, meeting spaces that weren't really designated. So it was excess circulation. Excuse me. So we took those out for the time being until we can kind of look at the plan. Anna, do you remember other trade-offs that we did?
Those were a lot of them too. And I think maybe early on too, we went with the first grade back to the 900 square feet.
The other thing was, I think we cut down the number of flex classrooms from
yeah.
the last.
Yes.
But again, we cut some, and then after meeting with the staff and teachers, we added some stuff back in. So we've actually cut more and then went back up. So it has been an iterative, process where we've really tugged and pulled and pushed back to make sure that this is the right number and we're not cutting too much either.
Great.
Jeannie, hold on, Jeannie. Can
Yeah.
I jump in with a follow-up to Jeannie's question?
Yeah.
When we're talking about AMS, when we're looking at the core design and how many students we're at, I know earlier in this process, we were discussing the possibility of Mount Vernon 6th graders, if they ever kind of wanted to come over. Are there flexible classroom spaces worked in for that? I see Bethany. Do you want to jump in, Bethany?
I can. Yeah, so we're building with that possibility in mind, so that we're building with the possibility of having 6th grade as 2 teams of 4, which allows that to accommodate some fluctuation in our student numbers and in our enrollment, so that we don't end up with class sizes well above what the school board guidelines are. Hitting those 26, 27, the 4-person teams really allow us to absorb fluctuations in enrollment in a really fiscally responsible way that ensures really strong curriculum and really strong, attracting really strong teachers and keeping them in those roles as well.
Okay, and for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, how many teams, or what is your 6th grade setup right now? So
Going into next year, we have 3.5 6th grade teams of 2. So we have 3 teams of 2 in 6th grade, and then 1 team that is a split 5th, 6th grade team.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie, do you want to go back in with another question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is my last one. Having spent 16 hours in a very hot Sohegan gymnasium that was air conditioned on Tuesday during the election, it really struck me how important it is that we think about air conditioning. And I'm just hoping, I know it's always considered a frill, but I think in this day and age, when we're talking about climate change and increasing heat at both the front and the end of the school year, I really think, I'm hoping that somehow you're able to build that in, or at least plan for, I don't know, I know Roger has talked about some sort of system where air is exchanged and it actually creates cooling. I just want to emphasize how important that is.
I think everyone who is at the polls, who is over at Sohegan, knows exactly what you're talking about. So thank you for bringing it up here. This is the right spot to say it. Does anybody else have any questions? Just to kind of get back to a little bit of the timeline here, we've asked Banwell to be able to bring us back some concrete ideas, which they're going to be able to by the end of this month, and we'll be bringing them to JFAC in July. So we're right around the corner here with moving along, and in a really exciting place that we didn't quite expect to be so quickly. I want to go ahead and let Bethany Bernasconi and Anna Perrell have the rest of the night off. If you guys would like to jump off, please feel free to. I appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And Banwell Architects, you guys are free to jump off, or you can stay on and listen to some other, subcommittee things, finance, public relations, and things like that if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So next up on the agenda, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. We're going to have Stephanie give an update on Sohegan 2.0.
Great. Thanks so much, Victoria. So end of May, Roger and our Sohegan 2.0 crew, which includes Jeannie and Christine Grayson and Lisa Eastland, we toured all the science classes, or many of the science classes, through the main building as well as the annex to really grab a good understanding of what is going on in all these classrooms. And so we toured them with Nathan Carl, who's one of the physics teachers over there. And I think we all had an eye-opening experience. I think Jeannie will agree with me on that one. Just in the main building, I mean, you go into the chemistry classrooms, and the first one we went to, is like, yeah, this isn't really supposed to be a chemistry classroom, but we've adapted it so it works. And you can see the adaptations that have been made. The desks just aren't the right sizes. The hookups aren't right. You look and you find cabinetry, which is supposed to hold acids and other things, are just really should have been replaced a few years ago. There's a lot of repair items. So Roger impressed upon Nathan to talk to the science people to say, please submit any what you consider repairs, so he, and to School Dude, so he can then go ahead and track and make sure things are getting done. So he's going to do what he can to try and do those basic repairs. But I think when we did take the tour, we saw the need of really upgrading those classrooms for our teachers to be able to teach the AP, even the basic chemistries, the environmental sciences, those needs. So we kept that in our back of our mind, and we walked over to the annex. So what we noticed, the first thing is when you walk into those science classrooms in the annex, is that they are small. I mean, just the 6 adults standing there in the room with the few desks, you realize how tiny they are. And you wonder, how in the world are you teaching 20 kids in this space, as it's like an advanced biology class that has to do labs? And that is one of the biggest complaints. Being able to see it, hearing from Nathan what they're trying to do in the classroom, seeing the space that's available, and how desks are even like hiding the eye wash place. You couldn't even reach it unless you moved the teacher's desk, a student desk. So if there was a problem, again, it's a delay. So there's some safety issues. I'm trying to think of everything else that we just came across. So now I think overall we had a better understanding of what the teachers are really asking for. So Roger and I spoke for a while afterwards, and we're going to look at what we can do for the annex and see what the cost really is for those classrooms. He was going to go and try and get some estimates for us, which I know he's kind of working on. In the meantime, we're going to see what we can do for at least next year on repairing some of the classrooms. There were just loose faucets, some things that were safety features in the main building that needed done. So there is quite a list of stuff, but I think we all have a better understanding of what is needed. And so I think working with Roger going forward, we're going to look at what can we get in the budget that's a realistic number of what it's going to take to do those classrooms versus, we think it's $400,000. We're hoping to get a better number because we realize there are cabinets that can easily be reused instead of replacing absolutely everything. So, I mean, that's our update for now. I mean, yay, our budget passed. So that means we'll be able to go forward and work with the Sohegan entrance and repair of lockers for next year. So that's exciting. On top of absolutely everything else that needs to get done. Right, Roger? We need to duplicate you. So, Jeannie, do you have anything you want to add?
I just wanted to add that I I thought it was very wise for the Sohegan board to delay trying to do any work on the science labs. I think it was really important to see, because initially you guys had talked about the annex only. And I think it was really important to see the main building as well and think of it all as one enchilada, because they all need help. It's not, it's very hard to establish priorities. So I think it's really helpful to think of it in one big picture and one big project.
Yeah, because even in the main building, we found that some of the drains, I think Roger mentioned, were a concern, where some of the heavy metals were being kept was a concern. There are some things that we definitely need to address in the main building as well. So I think
Right.
there's going to be a laundry list. So yeah, I know Roger's reaching out for information for us, and when he gets that, we'll sit down and talk about what can we do, what should we ask for, what can we put in the budget.
I think it would also be useful, Stephanie, if we could, to share the pictures that that Lisa took.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't I add that all into Slack, and then people can
That'd be
look
great.
at that. That's probably the easiest
Those
way.
pictures are always very powerful.
Yeah, yeah, she had a few, and I think I took a few as well, but yeah, you'll be amazed.
That's great. It seems like you guys have made a lot of progress.
We do. Now it should come down to cost, right? What we need to figure out what it's going to cost us to do this stuff, to say, how do we now sell it to the public? How do we put in the budget? Is it a warrant article? Do we put it directly in the budget? We need to have those conversations once we figure out the priorities, really, because there's just so much to do. I mean, if I could have a few $1 million, man, I'd be happy, but that's going to be hard to ask for.
So from a Sohegan Cooperative School Board perspective, what is, since you're a board member also, what is the plan for bringing different findings back? Either, what's your timeline? What are you thinking?
So, I mean, part of it's going to be with, when Roger reached out to other people to ask about cost estimates, we're going to see what we can do timeline wise. But when we talk to our school board is reorganizing, has a reorganization meeting on Monday. So we'll ask them, we can give them an update so they understand what's going on, and find out, do they want the priority just to be the annex? Do we want the priority to be all the science labs? And we'll have to work on it over the summer, but I really like to have an idea come September or October, whether we're putting in the budget, whether we want to suggest a warrant article, and some costs, because I think we need to hit the ground running in the fall to be able to sell this to the public, especially because everything going on with Amherst School District, we could be asking for a lot.
Right. And the whole concept of being able to talk about those things before we hit the budget season will be great. And then obviously the whole point of JFAC is to make sure that all of the residents here in Amherst know that we are all aware that both of our budgets impact taxpayers, and try and balance the needs across the districts. So that's great. And Roger, it seems like you're on top of figuring out some numbers, and we're just keeping you really busy. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and we're really at a unique situation with the budget passing and the secure entrance, that we're probably able to combine maybe a design cost for these annex labs with the secure entrance, so that we're actually saving in the end for both projects. So I think September is a good timeline as far as getting it out there, but I'm definitely hoping for stuff sooner. You know me, I'm always trying to get stuff as fast as I can. And this is just information. So timeline should be coming soon.
Sounds great. Stephanie, before, I know that you need to hop off, before you hop off, is there anything else from a school board perspective that you want to mention? Or are you good?
I'm probably good right now. I'm sure once we have our reorganization meeting and we were able to talk about where we want to go with all this information, I'll be able to have more.
Okay, sounds great.
Mhm.
Let's see, next up, construction cost subcommittee update with Roger.
So we have not actually met as a subcommittee, but as we heard earlier in this meeting, Banwell, our administrator, everybody is really working hard to just lower costs, and by reviewing square footage, looking at the building design. Once we get a construction manager on board, working on value engineering. So not only is it just the construction subcommittee, it's really all partners that we have going that are really working hard. So moving forward.
Great. So anybody who's on your subcommittee can expect to hear from you probably after the Banwell designs come back. Is that the
Yep,
timeline that you'd expect?
as soon as we review the conceptuals, get costs on the conceptuals to help us to really decide on which conceptual we want, we'll be meeting to review that, just like we did with the couple versions of AMS and Wilkins, and then we'll dive deeper into that as we go into a final design and GMP. So be interesting
Perfect.
months coming up.
Sounds good. Steve, I know you're still on there listening to us. Do you have any questions about construction costs?
Looking forward to get involved in it. So that's kind of my specialty. I work in that area all the time. So I'm sure I can help you guys hone in the budget and try to meet some of the needs. Like we were talking about air conditioning, and there's plenty of great options for providing, free cooling during certain times of day and economizers and that kind of stuff that we can talk about with the architect and get them on the right track.
Sounds great. Next up is PR subcommittee. Tom Gothier had a work event to go to, so I'm just going to give a rundown. Over at the polls, there was a table and people were giving out the flyer that included the website, our JFAC website, to send people to and to just kind of make people aware of the project if they weren't already, to answer any questions. They handed out a good deal of flyers. Let's see, those at the polls said that the takeaway, there are two takeaways that are really important. The first was that they needed to address sticker shock. And the second was that it's going to be important to promote the project. Once we know more information, once we have a different sticker, it's going to be important for us to promote that different sticker to everyone and kind of explain the process that we've gone through and how hard everyone has worked to make the new designs work better for our students and our wallets. Also on election day, there was a school design contest for kids that was rolled out. So flyers were given out for that. And Ellen Grugin is leading that charge. The designs are due back to her July 4th. And there is a flyer that's kind of circulating around on social media. And we'll access our maybe our Nixle channel or reach out to our schools to see how we can share that. To make sure that even though we're, in our last week of school and getting into summer, we can still get the kids excited about all the possibilities that their imaginations would have. Maybe not all the possibilities can happen, but you never know. So we're excited for that contest. And it's also important to make sure that we're connecting with people who are not regularly online. So we've talked in a variety of ways. We obviously did the mailing earlier this spring to residents. But that concept of connecting, whether or not it's through the Citizen or a quarterly newsletter, that the school board is looking to, work into their possible communication plan, but just kind of figuring out all those different options and ways to really connect with people. And let's see, finally on here, the timeline of our PR pushes are really going to come out once we have Banwell's design. So we're in, we're doing a lot, but we're also kind of in that holding pattern where you're waiting for those designs and then the real sharing of all those designs happens. So a lot of exciting things to come. I think initially our PR subcommittee was a small group working, kind of in the background doing some things. And at some point, PR really is just going to become all of JFAC as we're all trying to share the information with everyone. So let's see, the one other subcommittee that I wanted to call on was Amy with finance. If you have any updates with USDA or anything.
I do. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. All right, can you all see that? Yes.
Yes.
So Yeah, just to back up, since it's been a while since we talked about the finance, there's different ways that we can finance this project. But something that came to our attention that we should really consider is possibly financing through the USDA Rural Development Program, as well as the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. So just a recap on those two organizations. The New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank is a nonprofit agency that provides long-term tax-exempt financing. They pool loans into a municipal bond and sell it on the market. It's a simple application process. There's a low cost of issuance, and we'll have a fixed rate throughout the life of the loan. And there's potential cost savings through refinancing in later years. For this program, the voters would need to approve the bond prior to application and the obligation of funds. The USDA Rural Development has financing through their Community Facilities Direct Loan Program, and it also offers financing that we can utilize. This program allows for the obligation of funds at a fixed rate prior to approval of the bond, and we also have the ability to reduce the loan even after the funds are obligated, should our costs decrease. So if we go this particular route, our plan would be to finance 1/3 of the project through New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank and 2/3 through USDA program. So there's some pretty significant advantages to doing this. USDA, the current rates are at 2.25%. So if we were awarded, we would be able to lock in that rate, and we would have 5 years to use those funds. Good. So USDA is looking to obligate this year's funds. Something's happening. Can you see my screen? I don't know, something's happening in the first school. So, is it out again?
Nope, we can see your screen.
Oh, okay, something weird's happening. All right. So USDA is looking to obligate this year's funds for us this year as they have unused funds. They expect an increase in applications next year, and we may be less competitive given our demographics. So we also would be able to potentially buy down debt with USDA with no penalties. This is not an option with the bond bank. It's important that we have this ability because there potentially can be additional federal grant funds forthcoming. So as far as the process, we have already submitted a skeletal application to USDA to get in our pipeline. We did that in April. We, at our meeting, received a list of additional documents that are required. So we have a clear understanding of what we need to complete for them, including environmental reports, budget, architect agreement, public notice of intent, etc. We also need the preliminary architectural feasibility report, which is called Guide 6. And I let Banwell know that this was a document, or this was information that we would need, so that they include this in their report that they sent to us on June 30th. They requested to take a look at our construction manager RFP to make sure that the process that we're going through meets their requirements in case we go forward with financing with them, just so that we're not precluded by anything that we're doing now. We do have time to make adjustments. So they have that with a specialist taking a look at what we've done so far. And it's important to note that we won't be able to apply for bond bank financing until the voters approve the bond. Some of the requirements and oversight of USDA that I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention: we would be assigned from them an architect and a loan specialist. There would be monthly meetings and report filing, sources and uses, which is basically just the revenue and expenditures. We need to ensure that we have open and free competition for public bidding purposes. And it's interesting that even though this is federal funds, there's no Davis-Bacon prevailing wage requirement. So that's a positive for us. In terms of a timeline, they would ask that we would submit the additional documentation in July. In August, they would originate and underwrite the loan. And in September, they would submit it to Washington for approval, and we would have notification by the end of September, which feels really early, but it feels great to potentially know that we can lock in a rate at a potentially 2.25%. We would need to consider interim financing, so construction financing that we could do out on the market. So that is where we stand. So there's quite a bit of work to do to send them the additional information that they would need. But I think it's to our advantage to go through this process. So any questions?
I'm going to ask you a question. The Davis-Bacon prevailing wage, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, Roger can explain it possibly better, but it's basically federal, it's wage requirements that we would have to ensure that all of our contractors and subs are paid at a certain prevailing wage, and there's a calculation for that. So I don't know if Roger, if you want to expand on that, but.
No, you know,
Amy, this is Steve. I could help you with that too. I'm being a federal employee. I know that how Davis-Bacon wages work, and it's a wage rate in our area that governs what each discipline gets paid, whether you're a mechanic or a plumber or electrician, and they tend to be slightly higher than what you can get for local wages.
Yeah.
So we would see
those
some
are-
cost savings, it seems like, from that, from not having to.
Yeah, right. It's not a requirement for these federal funds, which is actually unusual in my experience. So.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions about anything Amy went over? No, it
So,
sounds
yeah,
good.
so kind of exciting if we can lock in that rate. That's a lot of potential savings for us. So, I think it's worth going through the process. So it'll be done out of the business office to that information over to them.
Great. And then
Could
you
I
guys-
just ask Victoria, Amy, when do you envision publicizing the fact that we're pursuing all these other funding mechanisms? Because I think that's going to be critical to, getting support.
Yeah, there is a notice of intent requirement as part of the application process, and there's certain date, a date that we have to meet. So I don't know what that is yet, but we would certainly be required to meet that.
Okay, thanks.
Also, I haven't, well, I don't know if you had anything to update the Amherst School Board, because if you're going forward with this, should they be approving the process or approving that you're going forward with this first? I
Yep,
don't know
so
if that's
this,
happened yet.
it has, right, Amy and Adam? Yeah, that's already gone to the Amherst School Board at the last, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before that. So they were aware that the skeleton application was being sent in, and then this is the follow-up for that.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to do the work, and hopefully, that becomes the ultimate decision, but it's certainly worthwhile to go forward given the favorable rate.
Yep. And with this meeting being public and us talking about it now and having talked about it over, briefly over the last couple months, it is public knowledge. So, Jeannie, when you ask, when are we going to publicize it? Anybody who's watching this meeting is free to mention that this is something that we are pursuing, and the details that Amy included are all visible through the recorded link and everything. So should be out there.
And there will be a specific formal notice of intent that we will need to post.
Yeah. Any other questions about it? About anything? No. Is there any other business? We've made it, I think, to the end of our agenda. Is there anything else that anybody has questions about, want to make sure that we think about as we move along, or anything else? Adam?
Thank you. Just a thought that I have, as the Amherst facilities projects are ramping up and getting closer, I wonder if we might suggest that the Mount Vernon School Board nominate a liaison to this committee. With the impacts at the middle school, the potential reorganization of 5th grade, and potentially the Mount Vernon 6th grade as well in the mix. And the fact that we have a tuition agreement with the Mount Vernon School District, I wonder if it just might make sense at this point to, during the board reorganization, to engage a member officially.
That would be great. And then is it true, Amy, are you updating Mount Vernon at their meetings as they've requested? They requested that at some point, right? That JFAC kind of keep them in the loop?
Yep.
Okay.
Roger and I are available at meetings to give them updated information.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, Victoria, one other thing too. Amy, I know you sent me an email about that county money that's available. Do you want to update everybody with the little bit that we know right now?
Sure. So, yeah, so as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, there was funding that has been released and to be released to states, localities and counties. So for state funding, this is the Sr3 Fund is part of the American Rescue Plan Act. And so all of the districts in SCU 39 have received 2/3 of their allocation for that, and will receive the final third once we submit some additional documentation to the state. So those are funds that we are receiving. Also, as part of this, the ARP Act, there is money that is being allocated to counties. Hillsborough County is receiving a little bit over $81 million. So I am trying to ascertain the allocating agency for those county funds. So I'm doing some research. For the state, it's easy. It's the New Hampshire DOE, and it's, it's a formal process that we go through and submit for funding through a grant management system, and it's very clear. So for the county, I've reached out to a few folks, and I don't think that there's actually a process in place yet. I haven't been able to get that information, but we're working on it, and certainly we want to find out, as soon as those funds would be available, how we can apply for them and what the eligibility requirements would be. They may or may not be the same rules and parameters as the state funds that we've received through the ESSER fund, but I would expect them to be somewhat similar, but I'm not sure. So, but that's a potential other funding source for the district.
Great. It sounds like you guys are on top of, all these different places where we can make this work financially for us, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I like the fingers crossed.
Can I ask, Amy, the funds that you're getting from the American Rescue Plan, are they to offset this year's budget, or are they for future? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody's going to ask that question because they keep thinking, oh, you're getting all this COVID money. Why do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So the Sr3 funds, we are looking at different possibilities, but potentially looking to offset some funding requirements for this coming year's budget. So more work to be done on that. We just received our 2/3 allocation. And so we need to do some more research on what potential needs we will have for reopening in the fall. So, and some of that work is being done through the reopening task force to identify different structures of what school is going to look like in the fall. So those funds would potentially be used to offset additional costs that we may incur. Adam, did you want to add anything to that? No. Okay. Week 5 on the job.
Good job. Is there anything else? Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right, 7 o'clock on the dot. So we made it, it should be just 1 hour. So perfect. I don't have it written down when our next meeting is. Does anybody have that written down? I believe it could be July 8th, maybe.
Yeah, it was moved.
Oh, July 8th. I think it is the 8th.
It's July 8th. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. So July 8th, and we will meet then to go over lots of updates from Banwell and any other updates that we have along the way. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Awesome.
And we'll see you guys later.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.